If you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, I went to Maui. I threw up my PayPal, my Venmo, and my Cash App and said, guys, help me get to Hawaii. And you guys responded, and you guys responded in a big way. Like I said, my plane ticket was so cheap; it was $200 a round trip to Maui, and we're gonna get to those things. The car rental, and we went to both sides of the island. Was dirt cheap. It was like less than it was like $200. It was like 4 days, but my donkey ass had to pay a little $30 extra because I didn't fill up the car as we were late running to the airport because we had another interview that we were doing that was just amazing as well with one of the activists there in Hawaii. Uh, um, but the Airbnbs were a little pricey because they are obviously putting a lot of people up from the fires in the rooms, and a lot of the crisis workers, whether the Red Cross and the FEMA people, are all there. So those rooms have been, those were a little bit pricey. They weren't as cheap as can be, but everything else was pretty damn cheap. And we're going to get into that. Let's just throw up the first tweet right off the bat because I've narrowed it down to what we learned from our time. What I learned from my time in Maui and Lahaina. And this tweet should provide some clarity to the whole situation. Let's go ahead and show the video right off the bat, 52 seconds. I got these videos from a guy who runs a round table pizza, and he lost his house in Lahaina. Actually, the fire was around his house. It didn't touch his house, but it's still, everything around him is uninhabitable. And he was right on Front Street, so that's crazy. But you can see this. These are some pictures from the actual time of the fire. So, yeah, it was a crazy situation. One of the things that we did learn is that all the Hawaiians seem to understand that they're getting shut out, right? And they're not getting anything. Meanwhile, Ukraine is getting so much money. They've mentioned that. They've said that, and that's one of the things I have to really report on. The fact is that they understand what's happening to them, and they feel like secondhand pieces of dung. Let's go get to the second tweet, and let's run through some of these things right here. So I can read it. Not so much the picture. I need to read the tweet. There's a still lack of transparency, plain and simple. Actually, you know what? Yeah, let's show the tweet because I want to read it. There's still a lack of transparency. You can go down just a little bit. I can't see it. Can't see it the other way. Thank you. There's still a huge lack of transparency, plain and simple. The citizens of Lahaina don't deserve to be left in the dark. They need answers, not only to find out why the fire started, but to see exactly what broke down during the time of crisis so they can better prepare themselves in case of another fire. And I just have some mailboxes that were on fire. And this is something that's going on. This is the number one issue I think we're seeing in Lahaina is the lack. Yeah. In fact, let's put these up like that. That's perfect. I like that one. Put that up like that again. The lack of transparency, right? Another area in which people in Lahaina need full transparency is what and where their elected officials are invested in as far as global entities such as the UN, the WEF, so they can combat any agenda that tries to unlawfully dictate their future. And that's something that's going on. So the lack of transparency, and come full screen to me right now. Lack of transparency, number one, on the fact is that there was a lot of situations that occurred to actually create the conditions in which Lahaina was almost made to be a brush fire. There's water diversion that's been going on for years and years and years, and we've been finding out that indigenous farmers, indigenous people, locals, they were trying to get the water sent to them. You know what I'm saying? However, water's been diverted for quite some time, diverted to golf courses, diverted to rich neighborhoods with big fountains. Water is scarce on the island. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to say it's scarce, but it's definitely being diverted to the wealthier class. So with the grass that they once brought in, and it's something interesting I learned about Maui is that a lot of the stuff that's there is really not indigenous to the actual island of Hawaii, that a lot of things were brought there. The mongoose were brought there, some fruits were brought there, and the grass that was there was brought there at one point. There was grass that was used for cattle that's indigenous to Africa that was pretty much just long growing. And once again, it created those conditions for a fire like this to take place, to happen. Somebody had told me, one of the things is they're still talking about, there's no official story about why the fire started. And, you'll obviously hear a lot of conspiracies from a lot of people. You'll hear energy weapons, you'll hear lasers, conspiracy truth, maybe, who knows? You'll hear it was the electric company. You'll hear it was weather modification, which created the winds. But one person said to me, he's like, why would they use a space laser when they can just go up there and drop a flare in that brush? Because it's going to catch on fire. But the winds are very confusing, how these hurricane wings 500 miles off the coast just came whipping in and made that fire like a torch, if that's the case. And, there are a lot of things to examine, the way some houses are burnt down and some are not. Some cars are burnt, just melted to a crisp, and not, and some are okay. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and there's those areas, that weather modification, that space laser, that energy weapon, that natural causes, that climate change. All these questions should be answered, should be asked. But the whole thing is there's no transparency. So the before part, there's no transparency. And then there's the during the crisis. Okay. Now, one of the first people we interviewed told me right off the jump that they had been told that the fire was contained earlier that morning. So at 9:30, a lot of people thought that fire was completely contained. And I asked the one guy who said that, oh, so they told you it was contained? He goes, yeah. Friends of mine that, were right by the area, the official word for some of the firefighters was that it was contained and everything was okay. So that gentleman left his kids and his in-laws at this house, and then he went shopping. But then he heard somebody say, wow, the fires are coming this way. And he was like, what are you talking about? The fire's been contained. And they're like, no, it's not. And they were at the Safeway and they were about to check out. And he looked outside and he saw the smoke coming. So he rushed home to his family. And luckily, he was okay. They all survived, but a lot of people did not. So that first part of why the people were told the fires were contained, combine that with the fact that the sirens never went off. And it's crazy. We played on the show before. The emergency management director, or whatever you want to call him, the dude who's stepped down and resigned, said that he didn't want to sound the alarms because they're usually used for tsunamis, and he didn't want people to go back into the fire. But it says clearly on their website that the sirens are also for wildfires. So they didn't sign. So there was no warning, and people talked about that. There was no water. We've talked about the water. People were just, puzzled on why the water was turned off, and they made many excuses, right? And we talked to an activist who's really concentrating on the water issue, because the water issue has been going on for a long time. Like I said, the diversion of water, at one point, I believe the sugarcane companies got a lot of the water, and they diverted away from the locals. They diverted away from the indigenous. They let areas like Lahaina so mismanaged that, this was almost bound to happen, is what a lot of people said. So that water was off. They also said the water was off because the electrical grid went down, and that caused the water system to malfunction. Another theory was that in certain houses where the fires just destroyed the whole area, and when you look at it, it's like, is that Hiroshima, Nagasaki, or Lahaina? That's how bad it looked in some of these areas, and some of the pictures we'll see. But they said that the water started springing out of these other pipes that busted and that drained the water supply, so the water couldn't get to where the firefighters or the people were trying to fight the fire. So that is something that we also learned over there. A lot of people are puzzled by that. Now, people have come forth and they said, well, we want to know everything that's going on with the water system, how it works, what happened that day, and they're not getting answers. There's no transparency. Like I said, the elected officials, the federal government, they're not answering their questions, and that part is awful. What else during the crisis went wrong? The policemen, this is something that was confirmed. The policemen were sending people back in because they said that they were trying to divert people away from the power lines that went down, but the power was out. And we were told it was out earlier that day. People had said, confirmed, that the power is out. So they were sending people away, they said, from the fire lines, but they were sending them back into the fire. So a lot of people were trapped, and that is something we suspected. That is something that was confirmed by the people. Mostly everybody. But there are some people who are like, the one first dude we interviewed, his name was John, Brother John. He said that he was telling the cops, like, what are you doing? You're sending people back in. You're trapping them. You need to open this up. And there was other people like the gentleman we met, Dave Mello, who owns Round Table Pizza. It's a franchisee in Lahaina. Guys just giving away free pizzas. It's amazing. We'll talk about that after too as well. he said that they were concerned with the power lines, and he doesn't blame the cops. He thinks it's once again, and most people think once again, that it's coming from up top, right? Somebody we interviewed, his name is Alfie. And and all these people, remember these names because you're going to see a lot of these people when our video comes out in a couple weeks, because we're making like a mini documentary, like I said. But when it comes out, you'll see. And Alfie said that, he was a cop here in California, and they would do drills all the time. And they would go door to door, or they would go with a megaphone, get out, scream, let's go, the fire is coming. That didn't happen. So he feels it was a question of protocols not being in place and training not implemented, right? And this is why he wants answers too as well about what their plans are. He wants to see everything. But once again, people are not speaking. People within the government, local officials, there's a couple of them are trying to bring some clarity and standing by the people. We met one Congresswoman, Ellie Cochran, that was there with the people facing the fire and talking to them. And I forgot the other official's name, but she took off. I never really got a chance to talk to her. But for the most part, Josh Green is on another island. He's not answering the questions to the people. There's no transparency on the before. There's no transparency on the during, right? So you have all these breakdowns, the police, the fire, the water not being there, the electricity act, the no warning, the no signals, the schools getting sent home. All these things that happened to create, was just like the perfect storm at one point. People want answers. They also feel that the government is not being honest about the number of people who died. And this is most of the people, right? The lowest number I heard of people missing was 400. The average was 800, but people were saying they think there's over thousands of people who could have died in this, and that the government is being very suspicious and they're not being transparent, and they want answers about, once again, have you just not identified people? Why are you keeping that number so long? Do you want to lessen the tragedy so you don't get as much help? I mean, why? And this all these reasons, then combine them with the after. Josh Green, the governor of Hawaii, was supposedly the keynote speaker at the UN for 15-minute cities, and the people know this. So the lack of transparency on who the connections between the global entities and the elected officials is also being hidden. And that needs to come forth, right? People need to understand who they're connected to. So therefore, the agenda moving forward is not duping the people of Lahaina, it's helping them, right? And that is something that they're not being honest and open about, and people want to know. So the before, during, and after, there's a lack of transparency across the board, and that's something we need to just, discuss. Let's go back to the tweets real quick, because I want to just show real quick these are some of the pictures we had. There's the Lahaina bypass where we were at. So we're on 2A, right? So this is the second part, right? So now there's a lack of transparency, and all that lack of transparency makes me feel as if there is a orchestrated gentrification. They don't want those people there. They want them gone. It feels like, and that's just, the way I feel for sure. And a lot of the people of Lahaina feel that way too as well. And one of the other reasons I feel that way is because Maui is open. You can see, I said I put it there. Despite Governor Green and Aquaman telling people that Maui is closed, that is just not the case. I say this because 80% of the money that comes into Maui comes via tourism. Yeah, it could be argued that, much of the state's income shouldn't be dependent on tourism, but we have to be realistic and play with the cards that have been dealt to us. And what I did was I went on the other side of the island. I went to Hana, which is the other side of Lahaina. And they're talking about, business being down almost like 99%. It was a holiday on Monday. And usually the coconut guy would have, so many cars just lined up and be cracking coconuts left and right. By the way, I had 2 coconuts while I was there, drank the water. Amazing. I would never say no to them if anybody put those in my hand at any time. Right now, I wish I had a coconut water right now. But business is down. The guy who sells ribs on the road in Hana, down. Coffee, down hardcore. And that's the thing. If 80% of the money coming in to Lahaina, into Maui, is via tourism, then, that's part of the solution. Go to Maui, right? Maui's open. Go there, spend money in the local businesses. Stay away from the corporations. Get the locals the money they need. Get them the resources they need to survive. Somebody told me that what he heard a guy do was he went and bought 10 $100 gift cards for some of the local restaurants in one of the neighboring cities, and he just went and handed them out to people and said, "Go, go, go, go." You know what I'm saying? Spend money in the local economy, get it out there. So that's something important. There. Oh, look at that coconut! I didn't even know I had that picture. That's what they look like. But I do it without the straw. I just tilt my head back and drink. Go to the next one. The next tweet, that is. Oh, and by the way, why don't you can put up the super chat too as well, the super ray. I can read that. We can do those maybe in time because I think a lot of them will be, if you guys want to talk on Rokfin. It says, Gregory Walker, what's up, Pasta? Seems like the state, one, murdered those people, or B, disaster capitalism, just let them die. Not sure what is worse, but I'm fucking disgusted by that shit. And people were put down, they were quelled, they were kept in, they were murdered. It is disaster capitalism of sorts. You know, like I said, the conditions that were created was mismanagement, and it's about not caring about a group of people. And, you know, the people of Lahaina, they're simple people. They like the simple life. And they said, you know, this was once the capital of Hawaii, the kingdom of Hawaii, before the American invaders took over and colonized the state, colonized that country at the time. Now it's a state. But like, I almost lost my chain of thought when I was saying about the disaster capitalism. Lahaina, simple people. Thank you so much. Simple people. There were people selling fish on the streets, fruits on the streets, you know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. There was always coconuts around, all that kind of thing. It was one of those communities. But now they've had, 15-minute cities people come in. Josh Green talk about it. They had a convention there a couple months ago. So it looks very, very suspicious. And it says closing down Maui, at the very least having the appearance within the mainstream media that the island is closed, is devastating right now, even to the people on the opposite side of Lahaina. People need to know that it's just not the case. Maui is not closed. And like I said, I know when George Bush told people to go buy something, you're being depressed, go buy something. It was kind of stupid. People like, you asshole, we got crisis going on. You're invading a country and you're telling people to go buy stuff. I know it kind of seems weird when there's death and destruction, and one of the most horrible things, the biggest wildfire in the history of our country, to kill, you know what I'm saying, once again, to kill more people. This is the biggest disaster, to kill more people. And like I said, this could be in the thousands, but it's kind of being suppressed, and there's no transparency on how they're getting this information. But go. If you can, go. If not, I'll give you some links to donate to later on directly to the people. What's the next thing? Okay, so this is amazing, and I don't have any pictures to show you today. I did make a tweet, and actually, I'll go grab that tweet too as well, and I'll put that in the folder. But let me read this first, and I'll talk about it as. I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting distracted. Let me grab this one tweet. Sorry. Here it is. I'll get it. So I'm going to put it in our chat, Cheese Slice, our personal chat, guys. Sorry to slow down and break the momentum. Okay, so the people of Maui are the leaders in how a community should pull together in a time of crisis. And I mean this when I say that. Go ahead and grab that tweet and put that up at your after I'm done reading this. I have witnessed other collective communities, and you guys have known this. If you know me, I've been to a lot of Latin America. I saw socialist countries, collective governments that come together to fight off a common enemy or obtain a common goal. But what I witnessed in Lahaina, I've never before seen anything like it. The locals pulled together despite national organizations and the government dragging their feet, and gave aid directly to their neighbors, with the basic resources and requirements that it takes to stop the bleeding. And let's go to this tweet because I want to show you guys what I witnessed over there just up the road. And I think we were showing some of these pictures. We saw just up the road from Lahaina, these little beach communities. They like put up like, little areas of mutual aid. It was just fantastic. Let's go ahead and run the video. Tell me how it works, the whole system. Like somebody comes in, hey, man, I'm a local. They're known or we're not.
You know, we're trying to. What we're trying to do is digress from asking too many questions.
Yeah.
For one, people are going through trauma. Number two, people have, maybe ego issues. Whatever it is, if you feel like you need to come in and grab something, or you feel like you need something, we don't ask questions where it's going, why you need it, what it's for. If you are coming in, you pick up a bag, you grab pretty much whatever you need.
Yeah.
All the way down the line.
It's all these canned goods. Let me just get this here stuff. Wow. And you can just grab this produce, everything.
We've got fresh mahi and ahi that's going to be cooked up for dinner tonight.
So what is the area which people can donate directly to you guys to help this mutual aid beautifulness take place?
So it's called honokawairelief.com.
Yeah.
This actually started from a media group in Canada. It's called Rebel News.
Oh, I know who Rebel News is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a little snippet of it. You know, they had everything there, right? Everything from produce, canned goods, food. They had a kids area. They had baby supplies, medical supplies, plenty of water. I mean, it was just amazing what they set up. Cereals, the whole 9 yards. It was pretty amazing. And there was 2 of these I saw, 2 mutual aid camps. And I've never seen anything like this. People pulling together. That was Kapono, right? And you had people who were indigenous to the country, to Hawaii. You had locals. You had the Howleys, the white people like us, all coming together just to get their neighbors what they need. And it was truly amazing because as you see the Red Cross, which I've heard some positive things about the Red Cross on the island. If there was one group that was doing some decent amount of work, from what I heard, it was the Red Cross. They were set up at the Hyatt supposedly. And people were telling me they were giving cash, putting them directly in the hands of people. If you went down there, you proved that you were a citizen, that you lost some stuff, they would give you money right on the spot. So I did hear some good reports, but once again, I did also hear these mutual aid camps. And this is something I'm scared about, right? Because what I'm scared about is the fact is that they're going to eventually close these places down, right? Right now, they're the most effective tools they got. And seeing these people come together was amazing. But just like anytime there's any type of mutual aid or community done, then we've showed videos of people getting arrested for giving homeless people food. I don't know if it's an ego thing where people from the Red Cross or FEMA's like, that's our job, we do that. But that's going to stop eventually, and they're going to try to shut these places down. This is the first time I'm saying that, and it's sad. And that's why we got to get aid directly to these people, right? We got to get it right to them. I'm going to be posting up pretty soon some more links in which you can help the people. In fact, you know what? I'm going to put up one from the other mutual aid camp, and I'm going to send that to you right now directly, Cheese Slice, if that's cool. Here, let me get it. I'm going to copy it. And we got to get it right to the hands of the people, guys. So we have to, do so. So I texted it to you. I don't know. Can you pull it off there somehow, Jamie? Eventually, we'll show that at the end. But that's pretty cool. If you want to put up the next tweet while you look for it, that would be awesome. And I'll babble along. But it was quite amazing seeing these people, do what they did. So these people are the really true heroes right now, like helping people just get stuff, and a lot of these people lost something. They lost their life. They lost a loved one. They lost a family member. They lost a house. They lost a business. Can you imagine just leaving one day for, like I said, it's a little bit different for me, right? Like I can do my job from wherever I'm at. My home is not, I don't necessarily have a home where I live, where I kind of grew up on and I'm connected to, but a lot of people have that. And a lot of people in Hawaii, especially in Lahaina, that was their family home. They were there for years. Can you imagine just leaving one day and then when you try to come back, you're not allowed into your neighborhood, and then they'll let you know for days what happened to your house. And then eventually when you go back and try to get in again, they said your house is burnt down and you can't go in there. It's like you leave one day and you don't even realize it, that your whole livelihood is gone when you come back. And these heroes that are just jumped into right now reaction, we got to help our people. Some of those people have masked the trauma that they're experiencing. Let's put this up nice and big. Make that big real quick. And we'll put the link. Let's put the link into the chat and stuff. And you can see, like, this is the Pahaku S Turns Community Relief Fund, right? Okay. Let's get this up, guys. Guys, throw $2 their way if you can, $5 their way. These people right now, it's the most effective way of helping the people in Lahaina. The most effective way, right? Because these are the citizens, their neighbors. They're getting food, supplies directly into the hands of people. And that's so important right now. People are starting to say that the Red Cross is starting to come around a little bit more. FEMA's starting to come around. The bureaucracy and the red tape is being pushed aside. But it's just, this is the most effective way right now, guys. This is the mutual aid. People who have lost everything. These are the basic necessities. Waters, they're helping people find places to stay. So get money into these guys' hands right now, because it's not going to be around for a long time. Eventually, they're going to try and shut these people down. And that one right there, the Pahaku S. Turns Community Relief Fund, just a bunch of guys who used to hang out at that park on the beach. And they said, shit, let's just set this up and help, right? And one of the dudes, he lost everything. He lost his business. It was in Lahaina. It got burnt down, and he's just picking up the pieces. Now, the other thing is, I want to get back to my tweet, because I want to, funny how human community proves how we don't need oppressive overlords, either or corporate or a state. And that is so true, man. Oh, God. Seeing these people come together, I've never seen anything like this. It truly fucking blew my mind. Cheese Slice, you put that link in the chat? All right, perfect. Guys, I want to see that, get some donations there. They got 51 donations. I think they had 46 this morning when I talked about it in a Kit show. Let's get some money into these guys' hands. These guys are doing a great job, right? And they're very suspicious about who comes around, because everybody's exploiting them. Like there's people who are going and exploiting these situations and, trying to raise money off of other people's stuff. So this one, I went to the communities themselves. I went to the mutual aid themselves, talk to the people in charge, so we can make sure that the people who need it are going to get that money. This was part of the work I did to go there, guys. So please, let's help them out directly, send money directly to them. And I'm going to share a bunch of links throughout the whole week on how we can help out. But the fourth part I tried to mention is that they're dealing with trauma, right? There's a lot of trauma there. I showed up to the spot, and go to that next tweet real quick. I showed up to the spot in Lahaina and Maui, just north of Lahaina, and where these people are being helped through mutual aid. It's early. It might be 3 weeks after the fire, which might be late, but these people haven't been ready to talk yet. You know what I'm saying? Their story, like I said, it's only just begun to been written, right? It's early right now. A lot will change over the next several months and years, is that they'll have to deal with this disaster that changed their lives. And some people are masking it right now and just into the kind of, relief process. And then there's people who just have not come out. They just can't speak. They're devastated. They're done. You can see it on their face. They don't want to be filmed. They're not ready to talk to anybody. And that's trauma. They're dealing with some serious, serious trauma. And let me say this much, there's been, obviously the mainstream media try to close up shit and go home and try to act like it's a done deal. They're not covering anymore. And they're missing the big story, what's going on right now. The lack of transparency, the way these people are just being shat on. But nobody's going to show up. There was a reporter who wrote that, I'm going to show up. Something's not here. I will get to the bottom of this. No, this is the long game, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to play out over the next several years. Before the quickest they'll be able to break ground in these places is probably 3 years, right? Because they're going to have to rezone the whole place. They're going to have to just, do everything, start over from scratch. And the bureaucracy is going to take a long time. Now, can you imagine middle class to poor citizens in Lahaina? They're not going to be able to go back and get their land. They're not going to be able to go back and live there again. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be forgotten about. And some of them have already left the island and they're moving on. That's why I say that we have to give a jolt of more mutual aid and finances right into the hands of the people who need it most right now to the hands of the people who are suffering, right now to the people who are most vulnerable. We got to start by keeping them there on the island. Maui's not closed. Tourism is their bread and butter. Go over there, spend money. If not, donate directly through mutual aid, through the links we're giving you out here. That was one of them we showed you. Like I said, I'm going to go over a couple more tomorrow. and a couple more on money. But the citizens of Maui, specifically Lahaina, are dealing with this crazy amounts of trauma. And just look at that picture. Look at that picture. They have some of them have mentally processed it. They're not ready to talk about it yet. They're still in their house, in their cousins' houses or their friends' houses or whatever. They've lost loved ones. It's devastating. They're dealing with a serious, serious, serious amount of trauma. And we need to help them. Let's get to the next part, which are some of the solutions. Let's play the video real quick. It's just another video over there, and you can take a look at it. Look at this.
For reference, this is Cheeseburger in Paradise. Looking back on Front Street towards Bubba Gump's. Looking down the street the other direction, oceanfront.
And that's the thing too as well. There was a lot of tourists in those areas too as well that are just lost, gone. They're out of there. So, man, it's just a sad situation. You can see there. That's where a cheeseburger place was. There was Bubba Gump's there. There was shopping. There was all that. And all of a sudden, this fire came. No sirens, no warning, no nothing. And it's just sad, guys. I mean, there's not much more I can say about it. The trauma that people are dealing with right now is awful. So, let's get to the next tweet, which was, what can we do as Americans to help the people of Maui, specifically the people of Lahaina, pull through? It's after 4B, so I think it's the second tweet I put in the doc. Okay. So what can we do? Well, I said right off the bat, go ahead to the next tweet. There is what I feel an orchestrated gentrification of sorts, where the ruling elite want the people of Lahaina gone and off their land, right? It's in a fourth industrial revolution style agenda that's being implemented and achieved, right? Why would I think that? Just way too many coincidences. Coincidence number one, which is right down below it, that the biggest coincidence is Josh Green, who's the keynote speaker for 15-minute cities, 15-minute smart cities at the UN. Combine that with all the lack of transparency around all the other failures before, during, and after the crisis, right? This is the perfect storm to implement and achieve a great reset style agenda for the city of Lahaina. And that's why I think that there is definitely this type of this type of agenda going on. The next one we have cheese slice. The next one, yeah. So we as citizens need to first help stop the bleeding. We need to recognize that to keep the indigenous locals and residents on their land, it's their land, we need to pump resources, finances directly to the people. Go to Maui, visit the other side of the island, spend money on local businesses. Next one. You would be amazed on how the tragedy in Lahaina has affected not just the whole island, but the whole state. People have talked about this. This is affecting Hawaii as a whole. It's like one of the major parts, and the engine has been clogged, has been shut down. So you can also donate directly to the people. We gave you a link. Make sure we share that again. Stay away from governmental entities and NGOs. I witnessed that most help and resources are being dispersed is being done by the locals themselves. So let's hit up these trusty PayPals, Venmos, GoFundMes, and GiveSendGos and pump that money directly to the people. I'll be posting some mutual aid links shortly throughout the week. We will be talking about it. Tomorrow's show, I'll be talking about it. So we'll have to check that out. The next one, finally, we need to understand that this isn't going to be a quick fix, right? I said this before. It's not going to be one discovery of a single corrupt politician is going to solve or change anything. The elites are playing the long game here. It's going to take a long time and a lot of work from local citizens, activists, and journalists before we move the needle towards justice. Too many scenarios have been put in place for quite a while, and this fight is far from over. It's only just begun. I think I spelt it wrong. Mahalo. And that is just the truth. So that is where we stand on this whole situation. And I can say this. I think these people are not going to go away easily. I think they better, if the state thinks they're just going to push them off their land and they're just going to go away, they better dig their heels in, because these people are not going down without a fight. Yeah, there are some that left the island. There are some that moved on, but they're not going down without a fight. Local and peeps from Ahu, he's going to yell at me. Sorry, I love you, Morgan. And Molokai brought mad supplies via fishing boats and jets. FEMA confiscated many of those supplies, but didn't mind chilling in $1,500 a night suites. And this is so true right here, right? Like this is something. And like I said, these mutual aid parks that are set up, eventually FEMA and the Red Cross and the state is going to try to close them down, probably sooner than later. So we need to do what we need to do. If you have time, if you have money, don't cancel your trip to Maui. Go to Maui, go to Hana, go eat some coconuts and ribs, go get some coffee up there, the Hana coffee, the Maui coffee, the Kona coffee. I brought some back with me. It was delicious. Find the areas where you can pump the mutual aid. Like I said, I put up a GoFundMe, right? There's other ones. I'm going to be promoting them throughout the week. I'm just trying to get all my stuff together so I can go out and I can give them justice and then promote these forms of mutual aid. So that's something to understand. American citizens need to stand up to the cops and the military. What's being done in Maui is what happened through our American history. Nothing changes in American business as usual. And man, it's just a sad situation. Like I said, this is an orchestrated gentrification of sorts. I can't wait to go back in some ways because I really do want to go back and see what's going on and witnessing. Like I said, what happens to these mutual aid parks. I think people will be ready to tell their stories too as well. It's going to be important to hear from them directly. We got to hear directly from the people of Lahaina. They can't be forgotten. The people of Maui are suffering. So first things first, let's stop the bleeding. Let's pump the mutual aid in. Let's pump the finances in. Let's spend our dollar in Maui with the locals. Let's help them stay there first, and then we can get to the next step. And that's watching the exploitation of the state and the real estate moguls and everybody who want to turn Lahaina into a 15-minute city. That's going to be taking, like I said, over the next couple of years through the community meetings, through the courts, so many things that are going to unfold over the next several years, and we have to highlight all of it. Tulsi said she was told their governor wants to take over the Lahaina area to build a memorial. To me, this sounds like they're just making things up, expecting everyone affected will not object. Yeah, listen, I heard a lot of opinions from different people. There are people who think that the governor and the mayor, especially since the mayor is, I believe, a local or an indigenous person. I believe he's from the island originally, that he himself is a trustworthy actor and they're working in good faith. But for the majority of people out there, they don't trust their government, and they think they already had a suspicion about the government. I mean, remember, this was the Kingdom of Hawaii that was colonized in the late 1800s, I believe it was, or the early 1900s, or whatever the case may be. So it's they already had a distrust of the government. So there's a lot of distrust of the government still going on. And you can understand why, especially when there's no transparency on what's going on. And not saying that Maui is open and telling people to come there is also a disgrace. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it might seem logical that, these people need time to mourn. And I'm not telling people to go to Lahaina. If you're going to go to Lahaina and you're going to go to one of these mutual aid parks, you better have water and stuff to drop off for them. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing I regretted. I didn't bring enough goods with me. I was going there to document stuff, but I would have probably stopped at the store and grabbed some cases of water and dropped them off. But I would say stay away from Lahaina. The neighboring towns near Lahaina, go to those towns, because some of those businesses have been closed since it happened. Rokfin, Paulo Arroyo, ultimately, where the fudge are the children? Great question. Where the fudge are they? They've been changing their language. One of my friends told me to say, instead of saying missing, they're saying unaccounted for. They're not missing at this point, right? And that kind of gave the mindset they're missing, like they ran into the water and they swam somewhere and they're hiding in the woods or whatever. They just haven't been found yet. We can find them. They're under some rubble. No, they were just unaccounted for the whole time. And that's once again downplaying the death that happened there, downplaying the children, because that's this whole situation. It really was devastating that sirens weren't sounded and the water wasn't working and the police weren't helping out properly because kids were sent home that day from school. So there are some kids that died alone, and they're trying to downplay that. And that's the whole situation. That's what we learned from our time in Lahaina. I hope I did a good enough job. I thank you guys for sending me there. How many houses were destroyed by the fire? I heard it was over 1,800 houses and businesses. So 1,800 structures were down, were destroyed by the fire. And some other structures that maybe weren't destroyed by the fire are now inhabitable, though, because the smoke and everything else really screwed the places over. The water issue. And I mean, and here's the thing, they're telling people not to go to Lahaina. You know, in some situations, like in East Palestine, they were telling people, oh, it's safe to go back. The water's okay. The air is okay. And that was just not the case because of what was in the air. In this particular situation, they're telling people the opposite, right? You know, oh, the water's bad. The air is bad because they don't want people to come back. That's why I say it's an orchestrated gentrification. Now, there's some experts have told me, yeah, maybe they should stay away for a little while. All that stuff that's down there is bad. So, I mean, there's confliction about that. I will say that much. But once again, it does seem like they want that land. For whatever reason, they want that land. And like I said, this is going to the story will unfold over the next several years. Within 3 years, if they're ready to break ground, who knows what's going up there? But we have to be part of this fight the whole way. It's a shame that the mainstream media hasn't picked this up and hasn't talked about this. They've kind of oh, case closed, we're going home. We didn't see any mainstream media news there. We saw a German station, and it looks like a bomb was dropped there. That's how awful it was in Lahaina. So let me just say that much. It's a sad situation. People are dealing with serious trauma. And we got to do what we can to do to help. You know, local journalists, I hope, keep talking about this. I hope people keep going there and documenting what's going on. There's plenty of people to interview. There's stories to be told. I interviewed 2 activists that my friend hooked me up with. One of them, her name is Tina Leah, and she's known as the Mosquito Lady because she does a lot of reporting and talking about the Bill Gates mosquitoes that they plan to release in Maui, saying that these mosquitoes are infecting the bird population. So mosquitoes that also bite people, bioengineered to have certain. These are the Bill Gates mosquitoes we talked about on the morning show years ago, about a year ago. So she was dealing with that, but she was concentrating very much on the water, and she's doing a lot of investigating on the water. So she has a lot of answers because she's done a lot of digging. And I will put up a tweet of her article later on. I will tweet it out there. Because there's a lot of people out there like that. There's people who are concentrating in certain areas. I'm in the one area of okay, we can talk about what started this fire. We can talk about it till the cows come home. And we haven't got those answers. I know the activist Paul that I spoke to, he's looking into that and what started these fires. He's very much concentrating on that. But to me right now, the solution is no matter what, it's first things first. Let's stop the bleeding. It is a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. But let's stop the bleeding as quick as we can, as fast as we can. Let's pump direct aid into the people themselves, the locals themselves, the indigenous, the people who live there. That's what we need to do first. And then we could go into other things and have other conversations.